Hello everybody, I'm back, and welcome back to What's Been Playing, the show where we put a spotlight on select video games and answer that lifelong question of, what is really worth playing? Now, as you might have remembered from my last video, I've been meaning to take a look at this for quite a while now, and yes, I was using a Sonic the Hedgehog figure as my stand. Deal with it. Now, Pokemon is a series that I'm sure needs no introduction. It's the highest grossing media franchise in the world, and even if you aren't familiar with Pokemon, you at least know Pikachu, gathering mountains of money with every release. I myself am a huge Pokemon fan. They're not my favorite games of all time or anything, but it's always guaranteed to be a good time when I pick one up, at least in my opinion. Not to say that their recent titles have all been that impressive though. While I'm always looking forward to a new game to release, whether a brand new generation or a remake, Legends caught my eye, especially with its attempt to put a spin on the franchise similar to Mario and Zelda's outings on the Switch. This time, we have more of an open-world action RPG rather than the traditional RPGs of series past. But with how often recently Game Freak has proved that you don't need to put in as much effort to sell their product because it's Pokemon, does Pokemon Legends move the series forward in a progressive way, or does it feel like a cash grab disguising itself as an open-world game? Well, I'm itching.
Oh brother, this guy stinks!
Well, I'm itching to give this game the review it deserves, even though it's a little past due. Let's take a look at Pokémon Legends Arceus. Took me way too many takes to get that. And honestly, for a take I don't even know if I'm going to use. Let's get on with the review. Ah yes, Pokémon, one of Nintendo's premier franchises. It's crazy to think that the highest grossing media franchise in the world comes from a series of RPGs, a genre that I wouldn't say is the most popular for general audiences, but with how accessible it is for gamers of all kinds and all the merchandise out there, well yeah, those numbers don't lie. Each Pokemon game that comes out usually sells like hotcakes, solidifying themselves as system sellers in some cases, like with the DS. Whether a remake or an entirely new generation, they are guaranteed to bring some good fun with them. Gen 5? But if you take the rose-tinted glasses off and really look at each game, you can kind of make the argument that each one is the same with a new coat of paint. One thing that usually stays consistent over the game without seeing much change is its battle system. The amount of major changes applied to battles on a casual level are quite small in my opinion. While that doesn't personally bother me, I know that fans may find it tiring because there aren't too many new, big ideas being thrown on the table. Anyways, I'm getting a bit distracted here. February 2021. A special live presentation was held to commemorate 25 years of Pokemon, something that I definitely would have tuned into but was busy premiering one of my OG What's Been Playing episodes for a high school class. There were a plethora of small commemorative announcements here and there, but the big announcements came in the form of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, remakes of the Generation 4 games, and Pokemon Legends Arceus, an open world game, and... wow. Oof. Ugh. Really? Yeah, this game really didn't look good at its reveal. Choppy frame rate, bleak environments, and an overall aura of just unfinished. And sorry to jump the gun here, but it's not much better in the final product. Just to get my major negative out of the way, I do not think this game looks that hot. Looking at games like Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey that make great use of the system's limited hardware, it's just baffling that Pokemon, the highest grossing media franchise, mind you, delivered a game that just looks not like a Switch game, but more like a PS2 game. It tries to somewhat go for this Japanese calligraphy art style, but I don't think it hits the mark. The environment still also looked kinda gross, and oh, the pop-in, don't even get me started. Yeah, I get it, pop-in happens, especially on weaker hardware like the Switch, but it's so distracting here that it actively takes me out of the experience at times. Occasionally Pokemon will still run at a low frame rate at a distance, water doesn't look that great. Graphically, this game needed a bit more time to stew, I think. But okay, back to the presentation. Even with its interesting take on visuals, it looked like Game Freak was trying to shake it up this time and deliver an open-world Pokemon experience which honestly sounded kinda cool. Battles looked faster, there seemed to be a great emphasis on exploration. Pokemon is a perfect series to put more of an emphasis on its world. And yeah, I get it. Having separate battle screens is the tried and true tradition for Pokemon games, but I think having battles that take place in the environment is an admittedly really cool idea. I mean, you gotta give them some credit for trying to shake it up, and it worked. And like with any Pokemon game as of recent, the game got regular updates regarding its production, and it was announced that alongside with the concept of regional variations, new Pokemon were being added too, which was pretty neat. We were also exposed to the idea of ride Pokemon, a bit more of what the game's open world would look like, and the story. specifically with the Diamond and Pearl clans, but that's about it. And eventually, we got ourselves a release date of January 28th, 2022. And then the wait was on. Even with the overall mixed reception from Pokemon fans throughout the past couple of years with each release, I was still excited. Putting my Pokemon bias aside, I was really excited to see how Pokémon Legends would push the series forward and give us that definitive leap to newer hardware that I think fans were expecting. Okay, well with that out of the way, let's talk about the product that they did deliver, graphics aside. You begin the game inside of this mysterious void. I don't know, a mystical stoner's chamber maybe? Before a mysterious figure that I definitely have never seen before gives you what I would probably assume is the newest iPhone or something. You wake up on a shoreline of the new Hisui region, which is actually just Sinnoh in the past, to find someone as well as 3 Pokemon standing over you. It's revealed that your character has fallen out of the sky and landed on the shore, damn, and somehow unharmed too. But following that typical JRPG trope, your character has a good old case of amnesia and has no idea how they got there. The man introduces himself as Professor Laventon, a researcher of these mysterious, potential hostile creatures known as Pokemon. Yeah, Pokemon Legends is a bit of a prequel, taking place hundreds of years before any of the games, where humans and Pokemon haven't learned to live in harmony yet. After what I assume is the Pokemon getting bored of sitting around in a cutscene for so long, they decide to dip, requiring the 2 to go after them. Along the way, you find the Arc phone that you obtained earlier with a strange message on it saying to seek out all Pokemon. Following a quick tutorial for catching Pokemon, Laventon offers to at least give you some shelter for the time being and leads you to the humble Jubilife village. The village basically acts as this game's hub, featuring side quests, cosmetics, items, a means to switch out Pokemon, a variety of different shops, and a main base of operations, the Galaxy Expedition Team's HQ. But everyone at first isn't so welcoming to you at first, which, yeah, falling out of a weird wormhole in the sky is weird, but damn, you could at least not make them feel bad about it. Also, quick side note, this guy right here, you meet him pretty early in the game and you visit his shop every so often, but his name is Benny. There were way too many times throughout the game where I thought that his name was spelled as Benji instead of Benny and had to do a double take. You then meet Akari or Ray, depending on the gender you choose at the start, as well as Captain Celine, members of the Galaxy Expedition Team, a team dedicated to researching Pokemon. The professor urges Celine to allow you to stay in the village, which Celine accepts under the condition that the player is able to complete a trial as a means of initiation. After being given your choice of starter, go Team Cyndaquil, you begin the trial after a quick encounter with this dude named Volo, a member of the Gingoko Trading Guild, which I hope I said that right, who stops by to lend a hand from time to time and just serves as a supporting character. And this is where the game sorta begins to open up, but, geez, there's like a lot of dialogue. I swear we'll get to positive soon, but man, this tutorial is so long. Would you have to sit through a roughly an hour and a half of tutorials and mandatory story cutscenes before you can actually get to the game, and it feels like a slog. First impressions are such a big deal for me when playing a game, and I was thinking to myself, oh god, is this going to be like this for the rest of the game? Luckily it wasn't, but goddamn, that's not a great way to start off your game. Anyways, you're thrusted into the first area of the game and simply have to catch 3 types of Pokemon, which, according to your partner, is pretty difficult despite them, being the expedition team who specialize in researching Pokemon. Based off first impressions, as you can see, this sure ain't like the other Pokemon games. At first glance, it looks like an expanded wild area from Pokemon Sword and Shield, which was cool conceptually, but didn't have enough there to really make it feel like a wide open space. It won't take long until you realize that the main mechanics from this game are much different from the previous games. For example, let's talk about one of the game's most important aspects, the catching. Pokeballs are items you can select at any time, and instead of waiting to throw them during a battle, some Pokemon you can simply just aim your shot, chuck a Pokeball at it, and bam! You caught yourself a Pokemon. Depending on the Pokemon, they'll react to you in different ways when you get close to them. Some might just hang around, some might run away, and some might even just straight up fucking attack you. And yes, you can black out from that. Also, real quick, wanted to point out that this is the sound that plays when you're at critical health. And that's another Nintendo game with a shitty low health warning sound. The game also introduces a sneak option as well as a dodge roll to help you either go in for a stealth catch or to avoid an incoming attack. Being able to catch Pokemon so quickly and effortlessly without the need of a battle is really cool, and it's especially satisfying when you hit a Pokemon from the back. It's really cool because you can throw a Pokeball to catch a Pokemon and then you can start to do something else instead of waiting to see if you caught it or not. All the Pokemon you catch get documented into what's going to be the region's first Pokedex. The more Pokemon of a specific species you catch, as well as fulfilling the challenges for each, its entry will get closer and closer to being completed. So getting a complete Pokedex is not only a matter of catching them all, but completing each Mons entry too. But that's not to say that catching Pokemon during battles isn't present, it's still an option and feels much quicker than previous games. Let's get into the battles now that we're on that topic. Almost like how you can now simply throw a ball to catch a Pokemon, battles can be started by simply throwing one of your Pokemon at the wild Pokemon, and it can't be stated how quick and efficient that is. On a core level, battles function just the same as you would expect them to, for the most part. Battles do bring a few changes, however, that make them not only feel like a more streamlined experience, but honing into that action RPG aspect. For example, instead of telling you if moves are super effective or not after battling a Pokemon once, moves will always tell you if they're super effective or not, which is always kinda helpful. Status moves are also extremely downplayed now. Both the attack and defense stats are bunched together with their special counterparts, but that's really it. If you take a look at the top of the screen, however, you'll notice that there's a turn list showing when each Pokemon is supposed to move. And depending on your speed stat, you can actually move multiple times before an enemy is able to attack, which is also really cool. This game also introduces the idea of agile and strong style. As Pokemon level up, they can master moves, which allows them to use the selected move in agile style, which has less power but the potential to give you more turns, or power style, which gives you more power at the risk of less turns. It's a really interesting battle mechanic that puts some more strategy into these battles. Do I want to try and knock a Pokemon out with one shot, or maybe I can use an agile style move so I can get a hit in as well as increase my stats right after? By the time you finish one battle in the older games, you would have finished multiple battles in Legends, which feels great. If there's one thing I hate in RPGs, it's lots of grinding, but it feels much quicker here. The only annoying thing is that multiple Pokemon are able to gang up on you, and it could take multiple turns before you can move again. I don't get it. Why can't I just, send another Pokemon out? This game takes place hundreds of years before the other games. I highly doubt that there are rules established for Pokemon battles here. And even though I just mentioned the act of grinding is made much quicker, it's also made much easier thanks to the new Alpha Pokemon, but not at the start. Alpha Pokemon are usually much larger Pokemon that roam around specific parts of the map. They're big, hit like a truck, and when they spot you, the only real thing you can do at the start is run. But if you're able to defeat one, that can net you some nice prizes like experience candies. Most of the battles you'll be facing are mostly wild battles with only a few trainer battles sprinkled here and there. Pokemon battles are also packing some higher difficulty this time around. It's not uncommon to have your Pokemon faint in about 1 or 2 turns, so I'm glad that you're not completely an unstoppable killing machine like in Sword and Shield. It puts more of an emphasis on choosing the right Pokemon for the job and paying more attention to type matchups. Another thing I found interesting is that both the act of evolving your Pokemon and having Pokemon relearn moves in their move pool can all be done in a menu. For example, if you want to evolve your Pokemon, for instance, an icon will appear next to it in the menu and you can select it to evolve. Or if you want to change your Pokemon's moves, you can simply select the option to look at its move pool and swap a move with something else. It's nice that Pokemon do have their own move pools now instead of having to go back to a building to relearn a specific move. Because of all these changes to the mechanics, the process of both battling and catching Pokemon just feels so quick and responsive that it almost feels weird going back to the older games. Items and Pokemon can be managed for the most part in the HUD with the push of the L or R buttons, and you can switch between using items and Pokemon at any time. It's a game that, during its gameplay segments, has you in motion for a while, which really helps to mediate those long story segments I mentioned. This trial at the start gives you a good idea of the mechanics and whatnot, and once said trial is over, you gain a spot as a member of the Galaxy Exploration Team. As a member, the more Pokemon you catch and info you register in the Pokedex, it'll help you increase your rank, which not only reaps in more rewards when fulfilling a task in the Pokedex, but gives you access to more items and lets you go to more areas. After a quick tutorial on fighting the previously mentioned Alpha Pokemon, we're introduced to Irida, the leader of the Pearl Clan, and Ottoman, the leader of the Diamond Clan. Long story short, both clans have been at war with each other to decide who the true almighty Sinnoh is and what it rules over. The Pearl Clan believes it rules over space, while the Diamond Clan claims it rules over time. It's at this point where you learn about the noble Pokemon, basically the guardians who watch over each area. Every noble Pokemon has a warden who acts as their watchful protector, but each noble Pokemon has been acting strange lately thanks to these strange lightning strikes from the sky, and it's causing problems for both clans. Despite the initial uneasiness from both clans, the commander of the expedition team puts you on the job to investigate. And mind you, the kid's only been here for I'd say about a few days and he's already considered the best candidate for the job. It honestly makes me wonder how the team made any progress before your character came along. From here on though, the story takes a bit of a back seat, and to be honest, I wasn't too interested in what's going on in the first place. It's interesting to have a game that takes place at a time where Pokemon are still considered wild animals, but with how much dialogue that really doesn't contribute to the overall plot there is, it's really hard to sit through. The only real revelations that are made here is that the clan slowly learned to earn your trust, and it's discovered that your character was actually sent back to the past by the mysterious figure we saw, so some time travel is thrown into the mix. This arc unfolds on the side with Laventon's assistant and this Pikachu which won't listen to their commands, and this group known as the Misfortune Sisters appear occasionally to cause some trouble, but it feels so inconsequential that it doesn't even feel worth discussing about.
You know what? Scratch that. There is one positive to these cutscenes. These legendary facial expressions the characters make.
But that's not to say it doesn't have its moments. There's a good laugh here or there, maybe a character appearance that comes out of left field, and the ending took a direction I didn't think it would, but we're jumping the gun a bit here, so we'll save that for later. But at this point, your goal is pretty clear-cut. Make your way to each area and quell the noble Pokemon living in said area. Legends will take you to a bunch of different locations all over that would eventually become the Sinnoh region. Grassy fields, sprawling beaches, huge cliff sides, etc. You're able to pick where you want to go from this map, which, in all honesty, I definitely saw as a bit of a disappointment. I initially thought we were going to have a completely open-ended Pokemon game, but from the looks of Scarlet and Violet, we might be getting just that in the future. I will say that exploring each of them and seeing what Pokemon reside there is really fun, and I'll usually start every world by giving the entire map a good look through before going to the main objective, which is marked on your map. You're able to open your ARC phone and either get a map of the area, see where any objectives are located, or see if there's a breakout of Pokemon, which is a random event in which a bunch of Pokemon will spawn in one location. This is where Pokemon Legends shines the brightest in my opinion. It really feels like you're on, well, an expedition, documenting everything as you go along. Whether on land, sea, or sky, Pokemon feel like, for the most part, they're interacting in their natural habitats, which conceptually is pretty cool. It's almost like a video game adaptation of the anime, where there was a lot more emphasis on that kind of thing. And the amount of Pokemon you'll find is varied enough where building yourself a team can be pretty hard sometimes given the plethora of options. My final team consisted of the Stoner Typhlosion, Speed Demon Yanmega, the Elegant and sure that there exists no NSFW of it online, Hisui and Lilligant, the new Ursaluna who looks like he just needs a cup of coffee, a Weirdeer because he looks pretty neat, and an Empoleon who seems to have a bit of trouble figuring out where the floor is. Nah, that's not quite it, Chief. Along with Pokemon to find, you can also find a variety of different materials from berries to ores and vegetation. Acquiring them is as easy as throwing one of your Pokemon at the material, and their idea of scavenging is headbutting or attacking it, and you get the material. They can be used for, you guessed it, crafting. Yep, like most open world games today, we have a bit of a crafting system which I think feels a little underutilized. With it, you can craft Pokeballs, healing items, items that make catching Pokemon easier, and a bunch of other things. This might have been me, but I only ever really found a use for crafting Pokeballs and potions. I would usually have enough Pokedollars to just buy any other items I'd need. I think there needed to be more items that you could use on a regular basis to help justify using the crafting system as opposed to just buying them. A slight pet peeve that is partially the reason for this ambivalence is your inventory size. There were many times during gameplay where I just did not have enough inventory space to pick up a rare item or a material I might need. It was either I go and put some items in the storage or go back to town to upgrade my inventory size. But I mean, it can be helpful whenever you don't want to travel back to a base camp and restock, as you're able to craft whenever. Within every map, you'll have a few base camps that you can fast travel to that allow you to heal up your Mons, move Pokemon in and out of boxes, or maybe purchase some items. You'll also be able to find Professor Laventon, who can update your Pokedex whenever you make any new discoveries. The world is also filled with a plethora of side missions to complete. Either in Jubilife Village or out in each area, you'll find people who can give out some side quests which usually net you some kind of small goodie, but some are required to gain access to specific Pokemon or new items for the shopkeepers, so I usually make sure to go out of my way to do some of them at least.
The game also sports some online connectivity as well. For example, throughout the maps you might find these bags known as satchels, which other players dropped when they blacked out, and they usually contain important items. By the way, there's nothing more annoying than losing a bunch of items that you might have needed, like evolution items, and having to hope that someone finds them. But you can pick them up, and those items go back to that player. And while you are able to trade with people, the option to battle is also mysteriously absent for some reason, which is kind of weird. That's kind of been a staple since the start. I guess because now you can freely move around during battle arenas, but I don't think that's a big issue.
Occasionally during play, you'll also see these time rifts appear within the map, and going there when it's in effect will usually give you the opportunity to find a rare Pokemon or some evolution items which are neat and helps with Pokedex completion. But it's not fun when you're waiting around for a time rift to appear so that those Pokemon can spawn. That was annoying. And luckily, you aren't traveling around entirely on foot. Early in the game, you'll gain access to the Celestica Flute, an instrument capable of summoning special Pokemon. Throughout the journey, you'll gain access to different ride Pokemon that'll help you traverse the region whether on land, sea, sky, or against large cliffs. It's almost like the ride system from Pokemon Sun and Moon. Switching between ride Pokemon is as simple as pressing a left or right on the D-pad. I will say, jumping off a cliff with a Weirdeer and switching to a Braviary in the air is pretty cool. The worlds that you explore and how you explore them is where Pokémon Legends is at its best. Not only do you have these vast open spaces with tons of nooks and crannies, but you have an extremely efficient and quick catching and battle system that puts you more into the action, as an action RPG should. During those moments, it feels exactly like that kind of next step that this Pokemon series needed to just, push itself forward. It's not uncommon that I would spend hours getting the most out of each area. It almost felt like a smaller version of how Breath of the Wild made me feel, but again, to reiterate, small. Also similar to Breath of the Wild, sort of jumping the gun here, I know. The music that plays in the overworld ranges from the sounds of the environment to the occasional pressing of the piano keys every once in a while. But that's not to say that's all you're going to hear. Sometimes, depending on the area you're in, you might get some background music that fits the area you're in pretty well. A really good example is when you reach the snowy part of Mount Coronet. This triumphant, uplifting theme follows you as you slowly make your way up, which pumps you up a bit, I feel. While most of the music is pretty fine, the battle themes are where the soundtrack truly shines. All of the battles are remixes from Diamond and Pearl, but played with older instruments, which is really neat to help sell the aspect that this game is taking place in the past. Along with that, you also got the Warden battle theme, which is a good adrenaline rush and a good remix of the gym battle theme, and the Noble Pokemon theme. Oh right, I didn't quite get to that topic, have I? Let's talk about the Noble Pokemon given the fact that they're, the main objectives in your quest. As I mentioned previously, each area has a warden who watches over a noble Pokemon, but they've all been acting strangely due to those strange lightning strikes, which give them this weird burst of energy, sending them on a rampage. At first, nobody has an idea as to how to stop them, but it's not until both you and members of both clans think to create special bombs, which basically contain said noble Pokemon's favorite food. As you might have guessed, each noble Pokemon basically acts as a boss battle in a sense, but not how you would expect in an RPG. Given the fact that you now have a means of avoiding enemy attacks, fights against noble Pokemon usually have you in an arena in which you toss the bombs at said Pokemon to lower its health while dodging its attacks. And it's honestly a really nice change of pace from the gym battles of series past. Yeah, you kind of approach each one in a similar fashion, but none of them get close to feeling tedious. Throughout the fight, there will be certain points where the Pokemon will get stunned from its own attack, which will give you a chance to battle it. If you win, you'll have a brief period of time where bombs will do more damage, but honestly, I just find it more effective to keep throwing bombs than to waste time battling. Once its health reaches 0, the noble Pokemon calms down, everyone thanks you for basically throwing bags at it until it doesn't feel like being angry anymore, and earns an elemental plate. This is sort of like the replacement for a gym badge, but you actually receive a bunch of these throughout the game from both quelling ride Pokemon and noble Pokemon. And each area kind of follows the same formula. Investigate what the issue is, meet the warden, complete some kind of trial or collect some materials, and then fight the noble. Rinse and repeat for 5 areas. But it's far from tedious. With how fun it is traversing the world, battling, catching Pokemon, it's able to stay fresh from start to finish. With that in mind, why don't we wrap this story and review up and talk about the ending? Now, even though this game is only a few months old, I'm still going to put a spoiler warning here since the game is still relatively new. So for those who haven't played the game yet, you can head to this timestamp right here to skip the ending summary, and I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Okay, for those who are still here, let's finish up this story. After you quell the last noble, you come back to see that the giant space-time rift begins to enlarge over the region, turning the sky an eerie red. My guess is Judgment Day. But unfortunately for the player, Kamado, the commander, suspects that you were responsible for this event, as this all seemed to go down as soon as you fell out of the time rift. Not only does he kick you off of the expedition team, but straight up banishes you from the fucking village. Jesus Christ, not even a goddamn thank you for the work that your entire team wasn't skilled enough to do? Shocked by this news, Laventon and his assistant suggest that perhaps the Diamond and Pearl clan could help, which turns out to not be the case. It's not until Volo comes in afterward, however, to offer some help and takes you to a secret settlement where we meet Kagita, a strange hermit who lives in the ancient retreat who possesses a vast amount of knowledge on Hisuian legends. Kagita basically explains that the entire world is falling apart, and that the only way to stop it is to assemble the Red Chain, which will help bind the world back together and make the rift vanish. Remind me if this sounds familiar, but with the assistance from one of the two clans, you make your way to the 3 lakes within the region, awaken the Lake Guardians, receive a material needed to forge the Red Chain, and eventually combine them to create the the Red Chain. After returning to Jubilife Village with a solution, however, it's discovered that Kamado led the Galaxy Security Corps to the Temple of Sinnoh to deal with the threat themselves. After quickly getting reinstated to the team, you make your way to the Temple of Sinnoh and stop both the one and only Benny and Kamado in a Pokemon battle. Kamado, realizing he was being a bit of an asshole, apologizes to the player and lets you fix the problem yourself. Depending on if you ask for assistance from the Diamond or Pearl clan, either Palkia or Dialga will appear, prompting the character to use the Red Chain, which breaks. Oops. So now you gotta fight and catch the Pokemon, but once that's all said and done, the other legendary Pokemon will appear, prompting everyone to hightail it out of there. Using the clues left behind from the encounter, Laventon believes that there is a way to catch the other raging Pokemon and prompts the player to obtain the Origin Ore, which allows Laventon to craft the Origin Ball, the ball that gets shit done. With it, the team travels back to the Temple of Sinnoh to apprehend the other legendary, who now enters their brand new Origin form before battling the player. You promptly defeat the Pokemon and catch it once and for all. The sky returns to normal. Both clans realize that the almighty Sinnoh they were worshipping were both entities and not just one, and a festival is thrown to celebrate you just being such a cool guy.
But I'm not done yet!
Yeah, we have a bit of a post-game here. After the celebrations subside, Volo asks the player to investigate the elemental plates that the player did not collect yet. Most of them will involve you encountering a plethora of different legendary Pokemon and earning them as a result. Once the player collects 17 plates, Volo explains to the player about Giratina, a Pokemon who is just as powerful as Palkia and Dialga, but was banished because they were being a bit of a jackass. He then takes the player to the Temple of Sinnoh, where he straight up reveals that he was the one who caused the Time Rift to appear in an attempt to seek out Giratina. His motive? To bring upon the appearance of Palkia and Dialga, who would bring the appearance of the god of all Pokemon, Arceus, to create a new, superior world. But doing that would destroy the current world, so as you could imagine, this leads to a battle between the two, which probably ends in one of the biggest fake-outs ever. Once you defeat Volo's actual team, he decides to throw out fucking Giratina, and I only had one Pokemon left, so I was pretty fucking nervous, if you can imagine. Luckily, thanks to his outrageous speed again, I took him down. I swear, Yanmega was like the MVP of my team, and the battle ends. In frustration, Volo hands the player the final plate, causing the Celestica Flute to transform into the Azure Flute. Surprised that Arceus would choose the player rather than him, he angrily walks off, swearing that one day he will conquer Arceus, even if it takes centuries to do so. However, if you try to play the Azure Flute as soon as you finish the battle with Volo without the complete Pokédex, nothing will happen aside from a message appearing saying to seek out all Pokémon. Once you reach this point, there isn't really much to do aside from completing the side quest, finding some mythical Pokemon, and completing the Pokédex. Once you do, you're able to challenge Arceus himself in the Hall of Origin, which leads to a genuinely kinda tough battle against the mythical Pokemon. Once you win, however, Arceus sends a fragment of itself to join the player, and grants them the Legend Plate, which lets it change its type mid-battle. And that's about it. I mean, I'll give the story some credit. I didn't expect Volo to act as this game's final boss. This was what I meant when I said the entire final act of the game's plot took a turn that I really didn't expect. But overall, I don't think it was enough to save the plot itself. It might have sounded like I just skimmed through a bit, and that's just because, yeah, I did. There isn't enough interesting dialogue and story content to really warrant giving the characters too much mind until things begin to pick up later. And that isn't fun when the game has an abundance of dialogue to begin with, especially at the start. To sum it up, it's a Pokemon story. Not to say that there haven't been Pokemon games with a good story before, but it follows all the beats and whistles that come with a Pokemon story, usually. And well, that was Pokemon Legends Arceus. Glad to see I'm back to making marathon videos again. Pokemon Legends Arceus is ambitious in a way that shows an interest in moving the series forward. What it lacks in the graphics and story department, it makes up for with gameplay that's quick, responsive, efficient, and just hella fun. The fact that Pokemon can be caught and battled so quickly without the need of sending the player to a battle screen is such a great idea and has me looking forward to future games. As you can see from the abundance of video files, I had a really hard time putting this one down and honestly would forget that I'm recording because I just wanted to keep playing. All the game's downsides, despite how major some of them may be, I think can be overshadowed by the positives here, and that's a good thing. Legends is a game that I think people wanted to see for a long time, and probably what they had in mind when Pokemon was making its official jump to consoles for its mainline series. The action RPG genre just seems to be the way to go moving forward, and it's nice to see that the team has some solid ideas put in place and didn't feel like a cheap attempt at creating a clone of Breath of the Wild. It is a perfect stepping stone to move the series forward, and here's to hoping that this formula gets refined next time. It's good to be back, everyone. Sorry for the long hiatus, school was a little busy, but I am back, and I have a couple video ideas ready to go, so expect uploads for a bit at a much more consistent pace. Personally, I wish I didn't have to come back with this beast of a video, but well, making long videos kinda seems like a tradition at this point now, doesn't it? As to what we're gonna look at next time, well, you'll find out. With that, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.